In this video, we will understand and characterize knowledge. We consider awareness to be one aspect of knowledge. Therefore, we will use the word knowledge instead of awareness from here on. But wait a second. Why do we need to understand the process of gaining knowledge to tackle stress? Let's consider a scenario. You are taking a walk in the park along with your friends, and suddenly you see a snake in the distance. You get alarmed and tell your friends. After looking at it, your friends respond that it is just a black curved rope and not a snake. You look again carefully and realize that indeed it is not a snake. So your wrong knowledge led you to be fearful in this situation. Could you have done something different about how you perceived this object? Or do you think the misperception was inevitable and solely due to your senses and brain functions? Let's try to find out. Can knowledge be simply described as just consisting of inputs gathered by sense organs and their communication to the brain? In order to answer this question, we need to understand the fundamental difference between information and knowledge. Routinely, these two words are used interchangeably. However, in technical terms, they both have very precise and different meanings. Let's consider some examples. A book contains information about a subject in pictorial and text forms, but does it have knowledge? Two people reading the same book can have very different levels of comprehension, even after reading and remembering the same content. In almost all languages, a word may have multiple meanings depending upon the context in which it is used. For example, the word stress in psychology relates to emotional stress, while the same word in physics means physical tension experienced by an object subject to force. It is worth noting that despite being the same word, the meaning of the word changes completely in different contexts. Conversely, two different words such as hello in English and hola in Spanish convey the same meaning, even though they are spoken very differently. When two people view one photograph, their eyes capture the image and the optic nerve carries this information in the form of an electrical signal. However, the individuals may grasp different details from the same photograph. Computer disks and flash drives store information in magnetic form. However, disks aren't knowledgeable of what is being stored in a way humans would become knowledgeable after accessing the stored information. Our DNA contains information about our genetic code in the form of nucleotide molecules. However, the DNA isn't knowledgeable in itself, and therefore, a dead body displays no knowledge despite containing DNA. So, it is evidently clear that information is distinctly different from knowledge. Based on the examples above, we can characterize information as a specific pattern of matter particles in visual, sound, electrical, magnetic, or chemical form. In classroom situations, despite eyes seeing and ears listening, knowledge of what is being conveyed by the teacher does not occur when the attention of the students shifts towards something else. Their senses are still communicating with the brain, so any information being received by their senses gets communicated to the brain, but no knowledge is produced. So, it is clear that there must be something more in the process of developing knowledge, besides just the sensory inputs and the communication to the brain. According to Jain philosophy, information is a characteristic of non-living particles, while knowledge is a characteristic of consciousness, which is a separate entity from the body. Knowledge, or jnana, is a living being's state of understanding and awareness. The difference between information and knowledge was first documented by the great Jain Acharya Kunkun in his treatise Panchastikai Sangra during the 1st century CE as Arthamai, which is an actual object, Shabdashamai, which is information of an object, and Jnana-samai, which is the actual knowledge of an object. The knowledge in consciousness occurs because of two types of causes, internal causes and external causes. The internal cause is an attribute of knowledge that is inherent in consciousness. External causes are the objects, sensory inputs, and the processing by the brain. Every person possesses the capability of acquiring sensory knowledge by applying their attention to sensory inputs, which is a form of matinyan in Jain philosophy. The person has free will to decide what he wants to pay attention to. After acquiring this sensory knowledge, each person is capable of acquiring additional knowledge, known as shrutinyan, about that object by associating it with his previous learnings, desires, or imaginations. After perceiving something through our senses, we rightly or wrongly compare and judge it with our prior impressions. This means that all of us have a free will to either be influenced by our impressions or be critical and introspective in our consideration of information received. By applying this conclusion to the previous example of a snake, we could have avoided being fearful had we been more aware. Later on, we will show you how to use this principle in many different situations of life to remain stress-free. We are concluding that non-living beings cannot possess knowledge, so you may want to argue that advancements in the field of artificial intelligence and machine learning have enabled non-living machines to learn. In fact, these machines and algorithms extract information, not knowledge, from the data that is presented to them. So-called artificial intelligence programmed into a computer or robot's processor is merely a systematic extraction of information through functioning of algorithms, semiconductors, and mechanical devices. Neither computers nor robots have any awareness and free will in their processes, which are two important aspects of knowledge. In the next video, we will discuss how beliefs form and what role they play in causing or curing stress. Feel free to leave your questions in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.